ladies and gentlemen, what you've been waiting for, West Virginia's game-by-game predictions.
All right, so if we're gonna go through the entire season and every single game, I think we're gonna have to do some comparisons of the opposite team. That's kind of actually hard for me to do with Robert Morris in Ohio for WVU. Ohio does have I closed the tab. Their quarterback. I know him from last season. I can't remember his name.
Parker Navarro.
Navarro.
Shout out
I knew it was Parker something. Navarro is a solid quarterback playing some maction. I love we use the term maction. I think it's hilarious. Anyway, for me, do you want to go one game at a time for each one of us?
Well, yeah, so we'll just start each game. Everybody give their prediction. I think Bobby Moe is pretty obvious what everybody's going to pick.
Yeah, Bobby Moe.
So,
the question is, what do we think the spread's going to be?
I'm going week to week when we give our pick'ems, we'll do a score prediction. So we won't do it this time but for Bobby Moe specifically, I think we're leaning on close to 60 points for us.
Holy moly!
I'll say that they're around the 10 to maybe 17 range if they can score once or twice when our second string goes in.
Okay.
I obviously have us winning, Robert Morris, and I know you said you didn't want to do it. I'm going to throw my spread out there, 28.5. That's my spread.
I think 60 points is high. I know talent-wise, size-wise, all of the metrics to compare, I think we outclass them. 60 points is high, and I think you look at your second, third, fourth strings, pull guys off the sideline that look like they're having fun. You're going to slow down on offense. I don't know that we get to 60. I think you're right about them having a score or two, kick a couple. But I think that's obviously a win for the Mountaineers.
Remember, I said close to 60, like floating around 60. I think we got to what did we get to last year against Albany? 40-something?
It's 40-something, yeah.
And the year before that against Duquesne, it was 56, I think. And so I think we'll float around there. And you have to consider the fact that Rich Rod's offense is fast, and Neil Brown's offense was slow. And so
that's a good point.
Take that in consideration. I just think we'll float around the 60 points, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they score at least once. So around 7 to 17. If they score twice, maybe kick a field goal. But that's not as important. The main point is we're going to beat Bobby Moe.
Lombs, I guess you have the same thing.
Of course, yeah. No,
yeah.
Who would take Robbie Moe? Come on.
No, Bobby.
That's who would
Robbie
take
Bobby.
Robbie Bobby.
All right, Bobby. Ohio Bobcats. I think all of us are in agreement on this one too. I have us winning in Ohio. The spread's going to be a little different, and like I was saying, Parker Navarro can be a legit quarterback in the MAC, but I have WVU getting this one probably by a substantial margin.
Here's the thing about Ohio for me. All offseason, I have heard about how Ohio is going to be a tough out for West Virginia, specifically because they do return Parker Navarro, who is a really solid quarterback. They won the MAC last year. They beat Rich Rod's team, although Rich Rod was not with them at the time in a bowl game. Ohio will be a good MAC team this year. However, if you simply take the talent discrepancy into consideration, I don't see how this game is close. Now, yes, it could be a potential look-ahead game to where our guys are focused on Pittsburgh the following week, and we just get ourselves caught into a game that's deceptively close. I think it could be a 7 to 10-point game around half, like floating around 17-10, maybe 21-14, 21 17 kind of thing. But then in the second half, I think Rich Rod steps on the gas and it ends up being a 17-point gap. I don't see the trap gaminess in Ohio that everybody else does, even though it is on the road. And so that place is going to be rocking. Ohio does not get the opportunity to play a Power 5 opponent on their home turf very often. So they will be rocking. They'll be ready to play with nothing to lose. I just think the talent will get the best of Bobby Moe. Not Bobby Moe.
If you take a look at Ohio's schedule, they're at Rutgers Thursday night on the 28th. We don't expect them to win, especially at Rutgers.
Shout out Nassim Brantley.
September 13th, they're at number 3 Ohio State. No shot. Why even get on the bus, quite honestly? So their chance to make an impact is against us when we're at Ohio. So it's going to be way closer than you guys think. Like, this is their time to make their mark this season.
I just don't see
that's
it.
a really
I
good
think
point. I think the Mountaineers have it. ESPN's matchup predictor is only a 64% leaning towards WVU, which I think is low. But you made some good points. I think the Ohio team is a good team, and I think it'll be a good game, but I don't think it'll be competitive in the sense that we're really worried about it. You know, we might get even like with it was Albany last year, where we get behind a little bit out of nowhere, and it's like, okay, we're going to play the game. But
that is a perfect example.
Exactly.
Perfect example. Right before the halftime, that score was 21-14, and Garrett Green steps on the gas, makes it 21-8 or 28-14 going into the half. I think it'll be very similar to what Albany was last year. Around half, it's like kind of, okay, why are we letting Ohio stick around? And the second half, you realize, okay, I'm a Power 5 program, Power 4 program, and this should not be a close game. Rich Rod turns on the heat, and it just kind of gets blown out of proportions. Now, I don't think it'll be nearly as bad as Bobby Moe. I'm thinking final score like maybe 34-24, 34-21 type thing, but I don't think it's going to be as close as what some people think. Like, some people have West Virginia by a field goal, and I don't think that ends up happening.
No, not that close, but it's definitely going to be uncomfortable.
I would like the score, if we're not going on field goals or anything, just going like basic score. I would liken it to like 35-17.
See, that's a little much. That is a little much, because that's a 3-touchdown difference. I'm thinking 10-17.
It's a 3-possession game. It's a 3-possession game. So, I believe in us. Like I was saying, I have WVU higher in the Big 12 than you guys do, so it makes sense.
Either way,
I think we're gonna wish that we didn't fumble or we didn't throw a pick. It's gonna be just way too uncomfortable.
Either way, both of us have, or all four of us have us starting 2-0, correct?
Yes.
Which brings us to the brawl.
Brings us to probably our most important game of the season, barring any very unlikely playoff eligibility. I think that Pitt is going to be the game that everybody remembers. I honestly think that we pull it out and win. But like Matt was saying, it's going to be uncomfortable with Ohio. I think the Pitt game is going to be uncomfortable. Pitt is good. We were talking before the show about just sort of where Pitt can stand in the ACC. I have them a little lower, but I don't disregard their talent. I think we win the Backyard Brawl, especially with the underlying story of Rich Rod. We're playing him on 9-13. He has just as much hatred for Pitt as the fan base does, where you can tell Neil Brown to sort of stay out of it. I think that young Patrick Narduzzi is going to go home crying. So I have the Mountaineers.
Let me tell you something. There is too much on the line for Rich Rodriguez to lose this game. Now, am I saying we can't lose this game? Absolutely not. This is going to be, if you want to talk about Ohio being uncomfortable, this is going to be butt cheeks clenched for all 60 minutes uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be the most uncomfortable game we face all year because of the opponent and because of how neck and neck I think it's going to be. We have met each other 3 times in the past 3 years. Every single game has come down to the wire outside of maybe 2023, where even though it wasn't as close as what the other 2 were, it was still pretty close. They were within reach distance in the fourth quarter. The other 2, obviously, meltdowns by old Neil Brown on the road. Again, too much on the line for Rich Rod to lose this game. West Virginia is solid at home in the brawl historically. If you look at the talent and kind of I don't want to say cancel things out because it's not really how football works. But if you look at Nico or Henderson, and then you look at Holstein, I think we're looking at Holstein is a little bit better, but not enough to kind of warrant saying, okay, the quarterback battle definitely goes to Pitt. If you look at Jaheim and Des Reed, near identical in what I view them talent-wise. Again, you can't really cancel out the wide receiver course. This is where I think Pitt can struggle. Pitt is probably going to have to run the ball a lot and depend on Des Reed's legs because they lose Konate Mumfield to the Rams. Can they rebuild that wide receiver room? Will the offensive line be any better? And then that defense is going to be, can Rich Rod score on the Pitt defense? That is going to be West Virginia's side of the story. Can Rich Rod find a way to have consistent offense against a solid Pitt defense? They're going to have one of the best defensive lines in the ACC. They have one of the best linebacker corps in the country, returning 2 All-American linebackers. The secondary has a couple question marks, but again, the defense will be solid. So for us, it is, can the offense be consistent against a really good Pitt defense? And for Pitt is going to be, can they find some consistency at wide receiver, and will the offensive line hold up for Holstein to make plays in the pocket? It took 2 absolute meltdowns for the worst coach in West Virginia history to lose to Pittsburgh on the road by 4 points twice. Rich Rod is a much better coach than Neil Brown is, and he is not going to let Pittsburgh get the best of him. Give me the ears in an incredibly close game. I mean, it could be whoever I think it is going to be the game whoever has the ball last wins.
31-28.
31-28. Pitt's got the lead, 28-24 with a minute and a half to go, and Nico leads a game-winning drive, or it could be a tie game and we have the ball and we end up making a game-winning field goal, that type of thing. But it's going to be close, and West Virginia is going to pull it out, starting the season 3-0 with the Super Bowl won, because this is the only game that matters this year, respectfully.
Yeah, you may have rallied the troops here. Originally, I'm taking Pitt just because of the unknowns of the West Virginia team. I mean, we'd have to see how they play the first 2 weeks. But, I mean, so inspiring, so inspiring.
We are starting 3-0. I will just simply say,
give me the Mountaineers.
You guys remember 2 years ago, last time the Brawl was at Milan Puskar Stadium, and the atmosphere there will carry us through. I know we're figuring stuff out this year. We're going to have 2 good, solid games beforehand to dial it in. And I think with the coaching change and with the way the guys have been working on and off the field, I think Pittsburgh is coming into a losing game. I think we're going to cook them. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch, but I do not think it is going to be an accordion where whoever scores first and it catches up and keeps going back and forth. I think they'll either start with the ball and maybe get a score and we catch up and then we get ahead and then I think we're ahead. Or we get ahead and we're ahead. I don't think they're going to be able to stand up to the pressure in the stadium. I will point out once again, I'm sure people that are watching have already seen this from other sources, but the University of Pittsburgh had tickets reserved for students, and they didn't even sell them out. They gave them back to us. We sold them out within like a minute.
Well, did you see it?
The atmosphere is going to be oppressive. If you get to go to the game, show them why you're there. It's more than a game.
I want to talk about this a little bit because I watched this stuff last night, and shout out to Mountaineer Paul. I watched your live episode about this, but young Patrick Narduzzi is very insecure as a coach. You can tell because everything that he said in ACC Media Day that he's for some reason gotten on his Twitter and said, and even the university comes out and tries to clown WVU, and they're sending in YouTubers to come rage bait the drunk people in the blue lot. It's so frustrating that they're trying to start this notion in college football that Morgantown is a dangerous place to go. I guarantee you, if you get your average fan from like Iowa State, like I think there was actually a fan from the Coal Rush game last year where Iowa State was like, I actually loved the environment. Like, people were nice to me, and I won, and obviously I was having my fun with them, but they were having their fun with me. It's the atmosphere you would expect from an away game in college football. And you got these Pitt fans that are saying that we're going to stab somebody because it's more than a game. And you got young Patrick Narduzzi trying to escalate this whole situation. And
Young Patrick thinks that there's 65,000 people in that stadium that all have a fanny pack full of AA batteries.
You think that you keep saying Patrick Narduzzi is sending me, brother. Oh my goodness. Either way, 3-0. We get the brawl win. That's, again, if we win the brawl, I could care less how any other game goes on the season because it is year one, and I don't expect us to be competing for a conference championship in year one. But you got to win this one. This is the one you got to win.
I agree. We've said our piece on that.
We have.
Let's move on to Kansas. I know we were talking about Kansas potentially being a way better team they were last year. And I think they will be improved, and it's going to be hard for us to go to their brand new stadium for the first Big 12 game and perform at our highest level. Honestly, I know one of you guys might say this is a toss-up game. If we show out against Ohio and Pitt, like if we beat Pitt by multiple possessions, which I'm not saying is entirely feasible, but if we beat Pitt by multiple possessions and go in and beat Kansas by a possession or maybe 2 possessions, I could see us wreaking some havoc in the Big 12. And Kansas is going to tell us a lot about how we're going to play in Big 12 play. I could see this going either way, to be perfectly honest. If our defense steps up, I think that we'll win. Because with our defense being so bad last year, we're going to have a lot of questions to answer come the Pitt game. And if those questions are an outstanding, we're better, then I think we could have the defensive talent to give Jalen Daniels some trouble. So I want to say WVU goes 4-0. I just want to see what you guys think.
All right. So people want to talk about Ohio being a trap game, which is perfectly fine because considering the circumstances. But Kansas is the game that I think we should be worried about as a trap game, quote unquote. Now, I don't think Kansas is a, bad enough opponent to warrant saying Kansas is a trap game in the sense of, hey, you're going to lose to a worse opponent than you. But I do think West Virginia is the more talented team, but they're going into an environment that is going to be rocking in Lawrence. Okay, new stadium. They should be somewhat hot on the season. I imagine they'll lose to Mizzou, but a decent start to the season. Jalen Daniels will still be clicking, and off of an intense rivalry game against Pitt, it's going to be tough to go in and beat a Kansas team that's going to be clicking on all cylinders. The offense is going to be moving fast. I expect us to get a little dinged up during Pitt. Maybe there's a guy or two on the defense that is out or slower because of injury. And I just don't think that we start 4-0. I think it's a little unrealistic for us to start 4-0. I'm going to give Kansas the nod here. So we start the season 3-1, a little bit of a disappointing loss on the road. Kansas gets the win.
I just have to agree purely based on Kansas comes off the bye week, and I'm assuming what's going to be a piss poor performance against Mizzou. This is their chance to set it right, So I don't know. You say that we're more talented than the Kansas team. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that Kansas has a lot of talent. We'll have to see, but
this is a first to 40 type game. I think both offenses are going to be flying. I think it's going to be like 37, 34, 42. No, I don't know if either team quite reaches 40, but it's going to be daggum near close. So if Kansas comes out rocking on all cylinders, I think it'll be a 37-34 type game.
I could get behind that.
It's so early. Obviously,
the whole point of this episode.
Yeah, it's
called preseason, Matt Howe.
This is going to be a tough game. I mean, you've hit all the points. It's an away game for us. Kansas looks really good this year. I'm going to give Kansas the edge here, but once we get into the season, I'm hoping I'll flip my vote.
I will say I had this as a win until I saw how good Kansas looked yesterday. And again, I don't want to overreact because it was Fresno State, but I've flip-flopped 2 games, and this is one because of how good Kansas looked.
I still say it's Fresno. So that's
enough.
where I'm standing. And Loams, I'm not necessarily saying that we're more talented. I just think that if our defense proves that they are what they think they are, then we could get this game. But I do like the notion of it being close because it's an away game and it's going to be hard to play in that stadium. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be hard to play in the new stadium. So
very different.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Utah for Game 5 this season. We have Utah at home. And I'm going to start out with saying that I don't think we win this one. Just because if I say that we beat Kansas and go 4-0, we're not going to go 5-0. We're going to be tired, man. And as much as I put Utah down in the Big 12 power rankings earlier on, I still think that they have the talent. Again, they have a lot more to prove than coming in and saying last year we're going to run this conference because they haven't. But they're going to get off on a better foot this year, and I think some of that momentum can be carried to this game. So I think based off of that, I think Utah's our first loss.
Okay. Like I said, I flip-flopped 2 games, and this is the other game that I flip-flopped. I originally had us starting 4-0 and losing to Utah, like you said, but I flip-flopped them. In the recent days based off of what Kansas did yesterday and a little bit more research I've done on Utah. Coal Rush. I'm not going to say anything else.
That's true.
I don't think that Rich Rod will lose back-to-back games very often. And if you have a team that is straight off of a loss and Rich Rod has lit them up, like, I cannot imagine the bus ride home after that Kansas game if we lose to Kansas. It is going to be a rough week for the boys in Morgantown, but he is going to have them ready against Utah in what I imagine will be a rocking, blacked-out crowd. I like us to get the win against Utah. I think we lose one we shouldn't, win one we shouldn't, and that is the Kansas-Utah game. We shouldn't lose to Kansas in my eyes, but we do. We shouldn't beat Utah, but we do. So I think we start 4-1 with the loss to Kansas and find a way against Utah at home in a tough battle. This is one of the games on the schedule that I think will be a little bit lower scoring. Rich Rod has an electric offense. This one I expect to be in the 20s, if that.
I'm going to jump ahead of you here, Matt. I think we beat Utah. And that's, again, assuming I think we have a loss to Kansas. I got to say, if you lose to Kansas and he would make people take the bus home instead of flying, because let's be real, they fly everywhere. I got to say, long bus ride home to Morgantown from Kansas sucks. I got to experience that recently.
And, was like 14 hours or something?
It's something like that. I got to say, that is a very motivating experience. Now, I don't think that's what he would do.
Yeah.
I think there's some other disciplinary steps that are more practical and a little easier on the body, probably. But I'm not as high on Utah as some of you guys are, and I don't think they'll be a bad team, but I think that's a team we can get another win against.
This is the game that I just think we win that we shouldn't. Find a way.
My opinion for that game is all based on how Utah plays against Texas Tech because, I mean, like I said at the way beginning, I mean, Utah hasn't shown up yet. If you look at their schedule, they play UCLA at UCLA. I don't really know how I'm supposed to feel about UCLA, but I have Utah winning that game. Cal Polytechnic at Utah. Like, what are we even doing here? Utah at Wyoming. I think you guys might be sleeping on that a little bit. I mean, what else is there to do in Wyoming except show up to the football game? So that place is always rocking. And then, their game against Texas Tech. That's, their first real test. So I do have West Virginia winning against Utah. I don't trust either team, but I have to take us, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, fair. Okay, moving on to
So,
game.
either way, we all have us starting 4-1, correct?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
So
4-1.
right now, there's a good outlook on the season. You're 1-1 in conference play,
Well,
3-0 in the non-conference, 4-1 total.
technically, I have us losing to Pitt, but it's close. It's close.
But I rallied the troops and changed your mind.
Sure, sure.
That's all that matters.
All right, now we can talk about Morgantown troops going to Provo troops. This is where BYU's at, Provo.
Indeed.
I don't think we win this just because of the home atmosphere that BYU has. And I do think BYU is more talented, but dude, like that stadium the past few years, especially since they joined the Big 12, has been crazy. So I think we're going to have a hard time at BYU. I think BYU pulls that out. How close do I think it is? I'm not sure. I think it may be more than one score.
I also have this down as a loss. And this is one that I have been pretty sold on as a loss since we got the schedule released based off of what BYU did last year. I will say I did have to think about it a little bit after the Jake Retzlaff situation, and now they're naming true freshman Bear Bachmeier quarterback. But that atmosphere, man. I got into it with some Tennessee fans about saying that Lavelle Edwards was a tougher place to play than Neyland. I'm going to stand by it. And the altitude – the atmosphere, just the talent that BYU has, regardless of having a true freshman quarterback, I think they find a way. And West Virginia falls to 4-2. Still not a terrible start, but I agree with you that I think it'll be more than a touchdown. I'm thinking 10, 13, 14, maybe 17 points. BYU just gets the better of us. And looking for revenge off of what we did in 2023, which was quite embarrassing for BYU.
I will say I also have this down as a loss, and this might be the worst loss of the season for the Mountaineers in terms of score, just because of all the other points that you've mentioned. I think BYU is going to be a very solid team again. Unless I'm misremembering, they're coming off of a bye week. And we're just, I think, in trouble going in there. Again, it's too early to tell. That's what we're doing. But I think that'll be a loss for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have us going to BYU. Flight gets us all jet lagged. It's always rocking there. Storming Mormons. I mean,
Storming Mormons.
What are you gonna do?
How do you handle 65,000 fans that are rocking with absolutely no alcohol in their system? If you come to Morgantown, half the stadium is intoxicated. Literally 0% of BYU is intoxicated.
I know the answer to that. You make fun of them on Twitter. That's the answer. That's what Pitt fans would do.
I like my BYU friends. I like my BYU friends that I talk with on Twitter. But
they're
cool.
They're cool guys. Yeah.
I tell you what, BYU brings a heck of a crowd when they travel. Do you guys remember the 2023 crowd that BYU brought?
And they were all very, very good people to have in the crowd.
Yeah. BYU brought a heck of a crowd in 23, and for the small section that they had, they made some noise. Yeah. So, props to BYU.
Respect BYU. Although is the game winnable? It depends on how we do the earlier in the season. But I think that's a loss. Then we go to Orlando and play UCF off a bye. We go to Orlando and play UCF. I think, based off our power rankings earlier, this should be a win. I think we are just overall more talented, even with all the questions that we have.
They had no answer last year, and they're going to continue to have no answer. West Virginia is just the better team. Rich Rod is the better coach. West Virginia has more talent. I expect West Virginia to have some struggles early in the season simply because of the lack of chemistry. It is 70 new guys. You're going to have very few people on the field that have shared the field with one another before. But this bye week, I think, is going to do wonders. And this little stretch of bye week and then UCF is gonna I don't want to say bond. That's not the word I'm looking for, but like kind of strengthen the team. The team is going to find some chemistry in these weeks. I think we win at UCF pretty easily. I expect the bounce house to be kind of dead at this point in the season. I don't expect them to do much early. So give me the Mountaineers by probably 14 plus at least.
So I have a question for you, Tyler, because I also, looking at this, I think I like the Mountaineers here, but ESPN's match predictor has them favored 2-1.
FPI.
I'm just looking at the game matchup predictor. I didn't look at FPI. Like you guys were saying, I like West Virginia going into this matchup. I was looking at ESPN's FPI. They have UCF, I think, way too high. But even though it's an away game for us, I like our chances going into it. I don't think UCF has done anything to improve so dramatically since last season that we haven't matched or exceeded. So I think we're just a better team going in, and it is an away game. But again, I just think we're a little stronger going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree that we're going to win. I mean, I have UCF winning their first 2 games, but then they have a bye week. They host North Carolina. I don't even know how to think about that game. I mean, I think it's going to be North Carolina by a lot. And then they go to Kansas State. They host Kansas, go to Cincinnati. That could be a winnable game for them, but I have Cincinnati taking it. So they're going to be on 4 straight losses. I think they're going to be down in the dumps. They're not going to be ready to fight for it. They're going to want to be looking towards getting to the bye week, the next week, week 9. And then, I mean, I can understand why you said ESPN would have them favored because, looking at the Big 12 schedule, no one expects a team in the Big 12 to not win a singular conference game. So somewhere they have to be able to get a win. And I guess that would be against Cincinnati. It would be against Houston. It would be against us. And it would be against Oklahoma State. So, I mean, I understand why they would have Florida winning, but there's just no way, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. UCF is definitely bottom for me, and I think we win that game pretty handedly. So,
Easily.
all right, let's move on once again. Let's talk about West Virginia hosting TCU in Morgantown. This could be an interesting game. It is homecoming. It is
Which
homecoming.
we have not won a single homecoming in the past 5 years, but under the Neil Brown tenure.
I forgot about that.
Time for a change.
Indeed,
I think that this is the year to do it, boys. This is the year to do it. I know that I have TCU and West Virginia right beside of each other in power rankings. Give me West Virginia here. I think UCF is going to be a good momentum win for us, and if we lose against BYU, that UCF game is going to serve as a get right to face off against TCU the way we need to.
All right, I want to put a pin in this game. So just everybody remember that we're putting a pin in this game, and I'll get back to the reason why. I am going to say right now, West Virginia wins in similar to the Kansas game, a first to 40 type beat. Like West Virginia, TCU just are going back and forth all game. West Virginia scores, TCU scores, West Virginia scores, TCU scores. Could be high 30s, low 40s type of game. My head says TCU, but my gut says that Rich Rod finally pulls off a homecoming win, and West Virginia finally wins on homecoming. If we're 5-2 at this point, I think Morgantown will still be rocking. There will still be at least 50,000 fans in the stands, at least, if not a couple more. So I'm going to give West Virginia the win. Like I said, my head says TCU, my gut says West Virginia, but I want to put a pin in it for a particular reason, and I'll get back to it.
All right.
But right now, West Virginia.
I have us losing to TCU. I think it'll be a good game, and I hope to win for homecoming. I don't want to dig too much into it because of all the aforementioned reasons.
I agree. I mean, I have us beating TCU, but I just as clearly can see TCU pulling out the upset, or not the upset, but them winning. But
There's a lot of 50-50 games, and this is one of the closer ones, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think we don't have an easy schedule by any stretch. So
TCU plays tough in Morgantown, too.
that's true. We lost him last time they came. So I could see. This is a PTSD game now that we're moving on.
Lord, why'd you bring it?
Now that we're moving on, we travel to Houston to play the Cougars. This is interesting. I think that it kind of depends on how Houston does in the earlier part of the season. Because we mentioned when we were talking about our power rankings that they could very well be a team to look out for. Even though we all think they're in the bottom 5 of the conference, they could flip that. And I think this could be a difficult game for us. But I think with everything that happened 2 years ago, we got to win this one.
All right. I have it down as a win as well. I don't think going into the game, you're going to hear about the storylines online, on Twitter, so on and so forth. As far as in-house, I don't think the storyline will matter about the 2 years ago we lost on a Hail Mary, because both teams have coaching changes since then. Dana is no longer at Houston. Neil is no longer at West Virginia. Both teams have an entirely different roster for the most part. They're going to be, Connor Wegman will, I assume, still be the starter at this point. It'll be either Henderson or Nico for us, I assume. So just two completely different rosters, two completely different coaching regimes. So I don't think the 23 situation will play much of a factor. Again, similar to the UCF thing where they're both coming up from the G5 in 23. I just don't think they've built the depth and the talent of a Power 4 roster just quite yet. And so I think West Virginia is still the better talent-wise to Houston, although I think they could give us some fits early. Could be one of those scary close games that you're hoping isn't close. But I'll give West Virginia the win. 3-game winning streak, and that puts us at, I believe, 7-2. At this point, if you're 7-2, I think you're ranked.
Could be.
I think Houston is one of those games that could be upsetting. I'm going to give the Mountaineers the win here, but Houston, just like 2 years ago, you think you have the game won, and oops, where'd that come from? They've done it to plenty of teams over the past couple of years. Sadly, that's happened to us. I hope it doesn't happen again. I like the Mountaineers here.
See, now I gotta take Houston here. I mean, for me, if we go ahead and we beat TCU at homecoming, I think we're gonna be a little high on the win, roll into Houston, and Houston's gonna be fresh off of a butt kicking from Arizona State. So I trust Willie Fritz and the boys to rally and try to make a statement against West Virginia in a game that West Virginia potentially might not take as seriously as they should.
That could be valid.
So what is the overall records for everybody? I have them at 7-2.
Yep.
Matt has. What do you have?
I have them at 6-3
with losses to Kansas, BYU, and who?
TCU.
And TCU. Okay. But either way, we're all very similar for the most part.
Yep.
That brings us to Colorado. Big man.
That brings us to the Colorado game, and this is a tough one for me. It gives me sort of the same vibes as a TCU game or a Utah game, where it's hard to initially dive in and try to predict it. I think, again, as we've mentioned with every preseason matchup, a lot of questions have to be answered, especially about Colorado. They're sort of in a tier of their own in the conference, as we said. So it's going to be hard to tell how good they are. I think if they're on par with our sort of record, if they have sort of the same record as us, it's going to be hard to beat them. But I think we could win this game.
So here is what I'm going to say for this one. Talent-wise, and just where I think both teams are in the conference is very similar. Both in that middle six range. On a neutral field, it is a coin flip. But I expect momentum and home field advantage to play a huge factor in this game. And if everything goes the way I expect it, West Virginia will be on a 3-game winning streak, with a caveat in that TCU game that, again, we'll get into. 3-game winning streak. Again, I think we'll be better late season than we were at the beginning of the season, simply because Rich Rod has had more time to develop his guys throughout the season and gain some chemistry. I like the matchups that West Virginia has. I don't know if Caden Salter, against what I expect to be a pretty decent defense that West Virginia has this year, is going to be able to deliver the ball. And if you look at Colorado's schedule leading up to this, they've got BYU, TCU, Iowa State, bye week, Utah. All 4 of those games are going to be tricky. I expect them to lose at least 3 of them. And then you've got Arizona at home, which I expect them to win. Even then, I'm looking at 4-5, maybe 5-4 on the season. They'll be down because they are not living up to the expectations that they set last year. So, like I said, momentum and home field advantage. If we're 7-2 at this point on a 3-game winning streak, Morgantown's going to be rocking. West Virginia has the momentum. Give me the ears, not nears, ears.
I just think it is a shame that I didn't get to see us win against Colorado at home before this, but I think it's coming this year. Give me the Mountaineers.
This is revenge for the Big 12 championship men's basketball Big 12 tournament.
I like that.
I remember I was driving home in a 15-passenger van on I-68 back to Morgantown listening to that basketball game, and I was so disappointed. Oh, my gosh.
So all 3 of us have wins down for Colorado right now, right?
Yeah.
Lombs?
Of course I'm taking West Virginia. Sanders built Rome, but it's all crumbling this year. We're gonna see that Rome was made of styrofoam.
So we've got 8-2, 7-3, and 6-4 between the 4 of us. Or no, Lombs has 7-3 as well, correct?
Let's see.
I have 7-3 so far.
5, 6. I'm still gonna rock with my original gut feeling of Pitt over West Virginia. I mean, I know I said you rallied the troops, but I'm gonna try and keep with my original picks. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 and 3.
So okay, so 6
No,
and 3,
6 and 4, 6 and 4. Sorry.
Yeah, 6 and 4.
6-4, 8-2, 8-2, 7-3. That brings us to Arizona State.
Yep, this is definitely our most difficult game of the year on paper. Arizona State looks to have the best defense in the Big 12. And we don't play Iowa State this year, but if you can get close on that Big 12 championship contender level, Arizona State's it. And not only that, we have to go and play them in their house. I think we lose by multiple scores.
Like you said, on paper, if you had to pick one game that West Virginia was 100% going to lose, I think this is it. Arizona State won the Big 12 last year. It's on the road. Arizona State has a bye week before this, whereas we're on a 5-game streak. There is very few scenarios that I see West Virginia walks out of Arizona State with a win. Now, I will say, when Carson was on the show, we alluded to the fact that Arizona State could be a lot worse than what people are expecting them to be, simply because they're underestimating the loss of Cam Scatterboot. But even with the loss of Cam Scatterboot, I still expect Sam Leavitt and Jordan Tyson to be good enough to handle business against West Virginia and Rich Rodriguez.
I think as of right now, it's a pretty clear-cut loss to Arizona State for all the reasons we've mentioned so far.
Yeah, I don't want to be a doomer, but I'm rolling with the Sun Devils.
So 0-4 between the 4 of us, not a single one pick. That's how it's going to be. I imagine that's how it's going to be.
All right, so we're 8-3 and 7-4, or
6-5.
6-5. Okay. And then we get on to another difficult game to end the season. This one is in Morgantown, and we're playing Texas Tech. If it's like what you guys said, where we get whooped, and I agree that we may get whooped when we play Arizona State. If it's like that and we come back to Morgantown for senior night and we're motivated enough, which Rich Rod is definitely going to have the squad motivated enough for that game, there's a good chance we could pull it out. However, my gut is telling me that Texas Tech will win, especially if their roster experiment works out. I don't think we win this game. I'm going to go ahead and chalk it up as a loss for the Mountaineers here.
This one on paper, I think, goes to the Red Raiders 100% of the time. I've gone back and forth, and I'm going to say that I think this game could come down to what the weather is. As weird as that sounds, I am begging for a snow game in Morgantown during my tenure here at West Virginia University. And if any game has a chance, it is this one. We're finally at home during the last week of the season against Texas Tech. If we can get a snowy game in Morgantown, and so Texas Tech struggles throwing the football because it's a little wet and slippery, West Virginia could have the ground game and maybe find a way to pull it out. But the talent differential between Texas Tech's roster and West Virginia's, the continuity between the rosters, I just think is going to be too much for West Virginia to handle, even at home. I'm going to go with the Red Raiders as of right now.
I'm with you there. I think Texas Tech should have it. I'll tell you, though, I've seen and attended a couple snow games in Morgantown, and they are special. So I'm right there with you, hoping that you get one in your time at the school. I think Texas Tech will have this game.
Yeah, I also have Texas Tech winning. I mean, originally when I was checking out our schedule, I saw that we had Arizona State right before the bye. So, I mean, we all had Arizona State winning, then the bye. So my thought process was Rich Rod could light a fire under the boys before senior night. But when you look at Texas Tech, they're going to be on a 2-game win streak heading into a bye week. They also have a bye week, week 13 as well. So to me, it's almost an equal playing field. And like you said, the talent differential, I just have to take Texas Tech. I mean, it's not like a hydrogen bomb meets coughing baby sort of game, but you just got to roll with Texas Tech.
So that wraps it up, right? We've got 8-4, 8-4, 7-5, 6-6, correct?
Yep, I think so.
Yep.
So when I said put a pin in it for TCU, my current record is 8-4. But my gut feeling on the year has been we go 7-5. And in that middle stretch where we've got UCF, TCU, Houston, Colorado, I don't know if we win 4 straight. And that also ends up being 8-2 on the year prior to us playing Arizona State. We'd likely be ranked if that were the case. I don't know if that happens. And so my gut feeling is that TCU finds a way on senior night and we end up 7-5 and not 8-4. But my head says TCU wins. But like I said, my gut says West Virginia finds a way on homecoming. And so that is the most coin flip game on the schedule for me. I could see it quite literally going either way. TCU could win on the road or West Virginia could win at home. So that is the coin flip game for me.
I think I agree with you that TCU is probably the most coin flippy game in there, because I also said 7-5 is probably what we end up as. And being a WVU fan for as long as I have been and knowing the game of football for as long as I have and how those two tend to mesh together, we end up losing at least one game we shouldn't. And I think that is going to be the case this season. What game that is, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm like you. I like the point of TCU.
The curse is broken. We're going to finally have the ball roll our way for once.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
You guys talking about coin flip game not factoring in the Backyard Brawl, right? Because that's a coin flip every year. We
Well,
can
no,
all agree on that, right?
I agree that there are a lot of coin flip games like Pitt, Kansas, Utah, BYU, TCU, Colorado, even to an extent. All of those are coin flip games in my opinion. But I think if one game was the difference between us going 8-4 or 7-5, I think it is that TCU game. Can they find a way to win 4 in a row in that stretch that's close to October, November, or will TCU get the better of us?
I mean, I could agree. I mean, that game is still in the middle of the season, but I think a more important game for us would most likely be the Utah game. Just both teams really fighting to find their identity in the conference. I think that's going to be the more important game to win. I mean, if you want to talk about a coin flip, I guess I could get behind TCU, but, important game, definitely going to be the Utah game.
Fair enough. Either way, none of us have us too high or too low. I think we stay in a bowl game. There's a slim chance we don't make a bowl game. I mean, I guess I won't say slim because a lot of people have us predicted to not make a bowl game, but I don't think we stoop down to that level. I don't expect us to be competing for a conference championship year one. I've got us 5-4 in the conference, which is not great. 8-4, 7-5 is where my head's at.
Yep. I don't know. ESPN has ticked me off a lot lately, just from how they slept on WVU, and I sort of understand it. But I think we have all the potential in the world just because of all the new guys we have. They could end up being stars.
I just want to say right now we're second in the Big 12.
With 8-4? Oh, you're saying okay.
I mean, right now at 0-0. There's only one team ahead of us, one team behind us.
Fair enough.
All right, well, I think that is going to do it for this very long but very special episode of the Coal Country Podcast. Thank you to Matt Lombs for joining us. It was awesome having you on here, giving us some good takes on the season. And
dude, it's awesome. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's cool. All
right, we're going to shout out Burner Twitter account.
Shout out Burner.
Shout out Burner Twitter account.
I'm messing. Continue with the outro.
All right. Well, for all you guys watching and listening in, make sure to follow all of our socials. Follow our X, Coal Country WVU, Instagram, Facebook, Coal Country Podcast, Coal Country Pod on Instagram. We have different handles for everything. Make sure to follow us on all of those. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, comment on everything. We love hearing your guys' takes and opinions. So that is going to do it for this episode. From me, from Tyler, from Matt, and from Lombs. We will see you on the next episode.
Goodbye, America.